energy and oil facilities across the region will be considered legitimate targets and will be destroyed irreversibly, and oil prices will rise for a long time. And then he also threatened to target buyers of U.S. Treasury bonds, saying that financial entities financing the American military budget were legitimate targets. And so with all that, you had Iran spending the weekend showing that it has not been defeated yet. Right, attacks continued against American allies in the Gulf, with Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, and the UAE all reporting that they intercepted drone and missile attacks over the weekend. We also saw Iranian strikes increasingly testing the limits of Israel's air defense system. On Friday, for example, a missile fragment hit near holy sites in Jerusalem's Old City and injured several people. And on Saturday, 2 Iranian missiles struck cities in southern Israel and wounded around 180 people, including a 12-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl, who were both reported to be in serious condition. And you had Iranian state-linked media saying that the strikes were carried out in response to alleged attacks by the US and Israel on nuclear facilities in Iran. And then also, a big thing with these strikes on Israel is they hit near the country's main nuclear research facility and reactor, which is meant to be one of the best protected sites in the country. So the fact that 2 missiles made it through, it's raised questions about how effective Israel's air defenses are going to continue to be, especially the longer this war drags on. Because so far, you have the military claiming to have intercepted more than 90% of Iran's ballistic missiles. And that may be largely thanks to something called the Arrow 3, an anti-ballistic missile system developed by Israel and the US. But Israeli media reported that the Arrow 3 wasn't deployed against the missiles that injured so many people this weekend. And so there are concerns that the military is starting to more aggressively conserve its stockpile of these interceptors, which are extremely costly and time-consuming to produce. Though I will say that the military has denied recent reports that it was running out of missile interceptors, saying that it had prepared for prolonged combat. But also, you had a former commander of Israel's air and missile defense forces telling the New York Times, it's not a bottomless barrel. When we intercept, we also have to think of the next day's battle. Right? And with that, a high-ranking Israeli defense official reportedly traveled to Washington this month to ask for more interceptors and munitions, and it's not clear whether the US agreed to provide more. Though also, in the meantime, another way that Iran's been trying to get around Israel's air defenses is through the use of what are known as cluster munition. They have these warheads that burst and scatter into small bombs, meaning that if they're intercepted, some of those smaller bombs can still escape and continue their descent. In Israel, they can try to intercept those too, but it is hard to hit every single one every single time, which we seemingly saw yesterday when an Iranian missile dropped cluster munitions in central Israel and injured 15 people. And with that, right, the use of cluster munitions, especially in populated areas, it may violate the laws of war due to the potential for indiscriminate harm to civilians. And in fact, the US and Israel have condemned Iran's use of the weapons for that reason. And actually, since 2008, more than 100 countries have signed an international agreement to ban them. Though, I will say notably, nobody involved in this conflict, including the US and Israel as well as Iran, has signed that agreement, nor have any major powers like Russia, China, and India. In fact, the US has actually used cluster munitions in Afghanistan and other conflicts, as well as supplied the weapons to Ukraine despite concerns over how they might be used. And with that, Russia, they've also used cluster munitions during the war there, and Israel, they've used them in the past wars, including in Lebanon in 2002, and allegedly more recently as well. And that's on top of how right now they've also been accused of using something called white phosphorus in residential areas in Lebanon, which could similarly be illegal due to the potential for indiscriminate civilian harm. And actually, on that note, the Israeli invasion and assault on Lebanon, it has killed over 1,000 and displaced more than 1 million, according to the Lebanese government, with the IDF chief of staff saying on Sunday that its campaign had only just begun. And that's as the country's defense minister revealed that he had ordered the military to step up its destruction of bridges and houses in the southern part of the country, even suggesting that they would follow methods that they deployed in Gaza. But to stick with Iran for now, in addition to attacking Israel, it's also believed to have fired 2 missiles at a joint American-British military base in the Indian Ocean, with one missile failing mid-flight and the other getting shot down by an American warship. And the reason that this could be absolutely game-changing is we're talking about this happening 3,000 miles away from Tehran. Right, Iran had previously said that it intentionally kept the range of its missiles below 1,250 miles because it didn't want to be felt as a threat by anyone else in the world. And so if that was a lie or something has changed, it means that many more European countries and US military bases in them are potential targets. That said, I do want to say it's not clear how far such an attack could truly reach, since neither missile reached its target, and it's not even clear that the missiles carried a payload, which would have let them travel further by weighing less. And Iran has actually denied that it fired the missiles, accusing the Israeli government of staging it as a false flag operation. But it is something we need to keep an eye on, because the questions here are also connected to other questions or claims, right? Things like claims from Trump and others that Iran, they had the ability to directly attack the US and that the attack was imminent, but also if they had this ability, they weren't using the ability. But all in all, with everything that we've talked about, what we do know, what's still questionable, what is known is that the Iranian regime, they're not done fighting. And so if Trump, he follows through on his threat, Iran may follow through on theirs, and the fallout with that, it could be massive. Right? Because currently, not all, but most of the impact on oil prices and everything tied to that come down to the Strait of Hormuz. And if that reopens, the situation could potentially stabilize relatively quickly. The relatively is the key word there, since you already have people like the head of the International Energy Agency warning that no matter what, recovery is going to take some time at this point. And that's also as he called the war in Iran the biggest threat to global energy security in history, worse than the oil shocks of 1973 and 1979 combined. But also, the the widespread damage to energy or civilian infrastructure, it would make that impact far greater and much longer lasting. Which is why you have some seeing this whole situation as a massive wake-up call of yet another reason to shift to renewable energy. But that shift, it's not taking place fast enough to offset these impacts if it gets worse. But then with all that said, this morning you had Trump appearing to back down, writing in a social media post, "I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had, over the last 2 days, very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East." And adding, "I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussion." With him then telling reporters that the US and Iran had very strong talks and would continue them by phone today. Also claiming Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were leading the talks for the US and were dealing with a top person in Iran, except he wouldn't say who that was, only that it wasn't the supreme leader. But then with that, you had Iran publicly pushing back on the idea that there's been any real progress toward ending the war. Or with Iran's foreign ministry claiming Trump's comments were just meant to reduce energy prices and to buy time for implementing his military plans, and adding, "Yes, there have been initiatives from regional countries to reduce tensions, and our response to all of them is clear. We are not the party that started this war, and all such requests should be directed to Washington." We also reportedly had a senior security official arguing that Trump pulled back his threat to hit Iranian infrastructure after Iran's military threats became credible, saying there have been no negotiations and there are none underway. And in the meantime, Iran's only stepped up their own threats, warning Trump against a possible boots on the ground effort. Or the country's defense council saying in a statement, "Any attempt to attack Iran's coasts or islands will cause all access routes in the Gulf to be mined with various types of sea mines, including floating mines that can be released from the coast." And saying, in this case, the entire Gulf will practically be in a situation similar to the Strait of Hormuz for a long time. And so ultimately, Trump may just be backing himself further and further into a corner every day, with him seemingly surrounded by yes men and sycophants, with the world's most powerful military at his disposal, and with so far no meaningful pushback in Congress. Who's to say if he'll taco again? But also, while we wait to see what happens there, his administration's latest moves on the domestic side, they're also prompting some serious outcry. Right in Atlanta, security lines are stretching for hours. In Houston, nearly half of TSA workers called out on Friday. And Trump's solution? Send ICE agents to airports. Agents who aren't trained to run X-ray machines, screen baggage, or basically do anything the TSA does. His own border czar admitted that they're mostly going to be guarding doors and checking IDs. So his transportation secretary says they will run the X-ray machines because they're under Homeland Security with TSA. So they also can't even agree on what these agents are actually going to be doing. And then you also have Trump specifically saying they'd be arresting undocumented immigrants with a heavy emphasis on those from Somalia. And then in the meantime, 2 pilots just died at LaGuardia and there's still no deal to end the shutdown. But, starting with the TSA crisis, we've been covering it extensively, but it just keeps getting worse. Workers aren't getting paid, they're calling out to work jobs that'll actually put food on the table, and security lines at airports are backed up for hours. And you have both sides trying to blame each other. Right? Republicans blaming Democrats because they won't pass DHS funding without ICE reform. But also you're seeing more and more people blaming Republicans and specifically Trump because they're seeing that the Democrats, they want to fund TSA. They've even tried to, but Trump ordered Republicans to refuse any deal unless the Save America Act gets passed. And so with the TSA funding specifically, even though it seems pretty much like a fact, I'll frame this as an opinion. I'll let you be the judge, but this very much looks like it's the Republicans' fault. Oh wow, we've got no end in sight. This shutdown could stretch well into April. Meanwhile, you're seeing things like Elon Musk offered to pay TSA salaries himself during the shutdown, which would run about $40 million a week. But rather than do that or some other thing, Trump announced that he was sending ICE in. Or with Trump posting, on Monday, ICE will be going to airports to help our wonderful TSA agents who have stayed on the job despite the fact that the radical left Democrats are endangering the USA by holding back the money that was long agreed to. And while that already was heavily disputed, what really set off the alarm bells was when he said that ICE agents would, quote, do security like no one has ever seen before, including the immediate arrest of all illegal immigrants who have come into our country, with heavy emphasis on those from Somalia. And so yeah, it really doesn't seem like this is actually about fixing security lines or helping TSA. This is about turning airports into immigration enforcement zones. All while the biggest bottlenecks in airport security are specialized tasks like running X-ray machines, screening baggage, stuff that requires specific TSA training, stuff that ICE agents don't know how to do. And that's why you're seeing people like John Sandweg, a former acting ICE director, saying, I find it hard to say operationally there's any basis to do this other than to use ICE again as a political wedge to try to put pressure on Democrats to end the shutdown. I think that's what this is all about. And you also had border czar Tom Homan acknowledging the agents don't have the expertise, saying that they'd likely guard exit doors and check IDs, calling it a force multiplier that would free up actual TSA agents to go back to screening. But again, you then had Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy going on the record saying that ICE agents would know how to run the X-ray machines because they're, quote, under Homeland Security with TSA. Which I will say, it's different, but it's also kind of like saying a firefighter can perform plastic surgery because they're both in the medical field. But easily the bigger thing here is that the administration can't even agree on whether ICE agents are door guards or machine operators. And then with all this, you had had the mayor of Atlanta announcing that agents would be at Hartsfield-Jackson this morning for line management and crowd control, which I guess we're going to find out about in real time how that goes. And then with all of this, you're seeing people like Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer calling it disturbing and saying that ICE agents who are untrained and have caused problems everywhere they've gone, lurking at our airports, that's asking for trouble. Also, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries saying that it was the last thing that the American people need, and adding, we've already seen how ICE conducts itself. These are untrained individuals when it comes to doing the current job that they have for the most part, let alone deploying them in close exposure and highly sensitive situations at airports across the country. And then on top of all this other airport chaos, you had a deadly crash at LaGuardia last night that's adding even more stress to the system. An Air Canada Express plane collided with a fire and rescue truck on the runway, with both pilots being killed, 41 people being taken to the hospital, 39 from the aircraft, and 2 Port Authority officers from the truck. And while you have sources saying that there is no indication of foul play or terrorism, of course the NTSB is investigating. Now, to be clear with this, right, this is not connected to the shutdown, right? Air traffic controllers they're not part of the group that's going unpaid right now. But of course, it adds to the craziness around air travel right now. And with that, LaGuardia was shut down following the crash, a full ground stop until at least 2 p.m. today. But then connecting to everything we've been talking about, every traveler who can't fly out of LaGuardia is now going to other airports, joining those massive security lines and walking past ICE agents in the terminal. Right, and so with all this, let me kind of condense it into 2 final things. Right, as far as where we are, you have TSA workers not being paid. The president rejected a deal that would have fixed it. His response is then to deploy immigration agents who can't do the job, with specific instructions to arrest undocumented immigrants, with heavy emphasis on those from Somalia. His own officials can't agree on what agents will actually do there. 2 pilots also just died in a disconnected incident. The shutdown, it could last until April, and the president, he seems more focused on passing a voter restriction bill than actually paying the people who keep airports safe. And then secondly, if you're flying anytime soon, build in some extra time. And then there's more we're going to dive into in just a minute, but first let me thank a sponsor and say, some of you are paying so much for wireless that your phone bill, it looks like it should come with leather seats and a sunroof. But thanks to today's sponsor, Mint Mobile, it doesn't have to. They've made wireless easier. Some wireless companies still act like overcharging you. It's just part of the adult experience, but I reject that. And Mint, they give you premium wireless without a premium price tag, with plans starting at $15 a month. No stores, no awkward sales pitch, just sign up and activate in minutes with eSIM from home. All plans come with unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network, which is a pretty solid combo of useful and not annoying. Plus, you also get free calling to Mexico, Canada, and the UK, which is actually useful and not one of those fake features that, no one asked for. They've also got data options too, 5 gigabyte, 15 gigabyte, 20 gigabyte, so you're not stuck paying for some bloated plan that your life doesn't require. And if you want to keep your phone or get a new one, you can. Either way, switching's easy. Also, 96% of users are highly satisfied with Mint's customer care, and they back it up with a 7-day money-back guarantee. So if you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/DeFranco or scan that QR code. Again, that's mintmobile.com/DeFranco. But then, diving right back into the news, if you need a favor from the Trump administration, all you got to do apparently is call up DHS and they will have your back, even if that means deporting your ex-girlfriend. Or just ask Paolo Zampoli, this former modeling agent who goes way, way back with Donald Trump. Or because the way the story goes is he introduced the future president to Melania at a party in 1998 at the Kit Kat Club. He got her a visa and attended their wedding, with him quickly bonding with Trump over what he called their common interest: beautiful things. Oh, and I should also mention that another thing they have in common is they are both in the Epstein files. Right, Zampoli and Epstein, they once discussed buying a modeling agency together, and in fact, Zampoli's own wife came to the United States aboard Epstein's plane as a 17-year-old Brazilian model. Her name was Amanda Ungaro, and she'd have a romantic relationship with the then 32-year-old Zampoli for the next 2 decades. And so in the meantime, they kept close with the Trumps, attending Mar-a-Lago parties, with Zampoli working for Donald Trump and real estate, joining the board of the Kennedy Center during Trump's first term, and becoming the special representative for global partnerships during his second term. Reportedly, Melania would even send birthday wishes and presents to the couple's son, who's about to become a very important character for this story. Right, because by 2023, Ungaro was reportedly fed up with Zampoli's parties full of young women and his lewd texts with an apparent sex worker. So she dumped him, she moved to Florida, she married another guy, and her son came to live with her, sparking a custody battle. But then last June, Ungaro and her husband were arrested on charges of fraud, practicing medicine without a license, and other crimes related to their business, which was a medical spa. Now, the husband ended up getting out on bond because he had a green card, but Ungaro, her visa expired in 2019, with her telling the New York Times that she had been led on for years by Zampoli, who repeatedly promised her marriage and citizenship, and then he reneged. And so according to the Times, he saw an opportunity here to win his custody battle, and he pounced. First, reportedly seeking help from Corey Lewandowski, right, the top aide to Kristi Noem at DHS, and that's all he is to her. And how dare anyone insinuate otherwise, but They got no response. But then he called up David Venturella, a top ICE official, and he reportedly explained that his ex-girlfriend was here illegally and detaining her could help him get his son back. And Venturella apparently bit, reportedly calling the agency's Miami office to make sure that agents picked up Ungaro from jail before she was bailed out, or with him reportedly noting that the case was important to someone close to the White House. And just like that, Ungaro was taken into custody and deported. Now, both DHS and Zampoli, they deny that she was deported as any sort of favor, and either way, it is possible, if not likely, that she would have been picked up by ICE anyway. But we'll never actually know, and so it's just wild to see yet another example of Trump's law enforcement allegedly being used like a personal problem-solving force, whether it's at airports and blue cities or in favors for friends. Plus, it's reflective of a broader trend in the way that the administration treats parents like Ungaro. But according to ProPublica, Trump started detaining and arresting immigrant parents with U.S. citizen children twice as often as Biden did, with the Fed scooping up the parents of at least 11,000 citizen children over just the first 7 months. So that means that if they kept up that pace, it'll be roughly double that number by now, so about 22,000 parents, and that's likely an undercount. Also, for whatever reason, they've especially gone after mothers, reportedly deporting about 4 times as many moms of citizen children per day as Biden did. And if you're one of those parents who gets arrested, you're much less likely to be let go than you were before. Because while about 30% of these cases ended in deportation under Biden, under Trump, that number has shot up to almost 60%. And as many experts have noted, that's not because they're the worst of the worst like Trump promised. Right, over half of the fathers and about 3/4 of the moms had no criminal convictions in the United States except for traffic or immigration-related offenses. With the polling showing that, more and more people are asking things like, why are these people being forcibly separated from their kids for what, a speeding ticket? But also, none of these numbers should be too surprising. We know that immigration agents have been pressured to get those arrest numbers up as high as possible. And in fact, Trump's people even changed the name of the document containing guidelines for how to handle parents from the Parental Interest Directive to the Detained Parents Directive. And they also removed the word humane from its preamble on how to handle immigrant parents. But then, actually, the final thing that I want to talk about today is that AI political ads are already messing with the midterms, and we are still months out. Right, among other things, you had a Republican committee posting a deep fake of a Democratic Senate candidate reading his own tweets, video that looks completely real with nothing but a barely visible watermark disclosing that it's fake. Also, another candidate posted an AI-generated version of a sitting governor's voice saying things that she never said and called it a parody. All while AI companies, they've pledged $265 million in super PAC money to punish any lawmaker who tries to regulate them. So let's talk about what's happening, who's doing it, and why nobody's stopping it. Now, one of the most recent situations that actually hit Texas Senate candidate James Tallarico, the Democratic nominee, where this month the National Republican Senatorial Committee posted an AI-generated video showing Tallarico sitting at a desk, reading his old tweets out loud and commenting on them.
Oh, I remember this one. Radicalized white men are the greatest domestic terrorist threat in our country. White men. So true. So true. Oh, this one is touching. Over and over, Christians use scripture to justify bullying trans kids. I told them in my faith, God is non-binary.
So the old tweets, those are real. The video, it's not. Tallarico never read them on camera. He never provided that commentary. The whole thing was generated to make him look too extreme for conservative voters. There's no big, bold disclaimer, no verbal disclaimer, just a faint watermark in the corner noting that it's AI. You'd really only see it if you were looking for it, but the Republican Senatorial Committee, they say, hey, they did nothing wrong. Right, a source close to the group telling CNN that they just visualized Tallarico's words, saying they used a modern tool within all legal and ethical parameters. But also, it's not just Tallarico. This is happening across the country. Also in the Texas Senate race, Republican Ken Paxton posted a fake video of fellow Republican John Cornyn dancing with Jasmine Crockett, meant to make him look too cozy with Democrats. Then in Massachusetts, a Republican candidate running against Governor Maura Healey put out a radio spot using an AI-generated version of her voice, saying things that she never said. Right, and that ad was framed as what her ads, quote, might sound like if she was honest. And so you had the fake Healey saying,
we have accomplished so much in our first term. We have one of the highest electricity rates in the nation, thanks to me for slapping on excessive fees to fund my climate agenda.
But she never said any of that, though the campaign that put this out defended it as parody and as a creative and fun way to educate voters. Also in a Massachusetts state race, a representative posted an AI-generated newspaper's front page showing his opponent holding hands with Zoran Mamdani, designed to paint him as a radical leftist. And so with all this, you're seeing people like the CEO of advertising firm DS Political saying, anytime generative AI is used to create messaging or imagery that is misleading, I hope we can all agree that's a negative thing. When you're trying to be deceitful or have something that never existed, that's a big issue. Now, in the pursuit of being fair here, I'm going to note that Democrats have used AI in political ads as well. This is not exclusive to Republican tactics. But easily, the highest profile cases right now, they are overwhelmingly coming from the right. And you have some saying that the biggest reason that this is just getting worse and worse is that the most powerful person in the country is doing it constantly. Trump uses AI to attack opponents, promote his agenda, and stoke political flames. And, reports have found that his use of technology has eroded public trust, with people genuinely just not knowing what's real anymore. You even had New York Times tech reporter Tiffany Sue putting it this way. If the president sets sets the political tone, then candidates could be less cautious about tapping the technology. Their calculus might be that the public is becoming increasingly desensitized to AI's reality distortion effect. They're already being bombarded with fake influencers, fake celebrities, fake war reporting. What's another fake politician? So the general argument is that when the president treats deepfakes as just another tool, it gives everyone else permission to do the same. That said, some states, they've moved to regulate political deepfakes, requiring disclosure when AI is used or restricting how it can be deployed in campaign ads. But just last week, you had Trump introducing a legislative framework that would limit states' ability to regulate AI across the board. It creates a single national policy covering child safety, intellectual property, free speech, and data centers. And on paper, like a number of things, that sounds reasonable, but in practice, many believe that whatever Trump proposes, it's not going to go far enough, and that a national standard could actually undo the stronger protections that states have already built. Trump is definitely not alone in trying to keep AI unregulated. AI companies have pledged $265 million for super PACs ahead of the midterms, according to the Wall Street Journal. And a lot of that money is focused on a congressional race in New York, where millions have been spent in attack ads against a candidate by the name of Alex Boris. Now, reports have noted that the attack ads have actually raised Boris's profile. This kind of spending can work. For crypto groups, they spent big money to get Trump into office, and that paid off. And as is often the case with AI, this is a space that we're gonna have to keep watching, right? The technology is cheap, it takes minutes to use, there's barely any enforcement, the president does it, and the companies building the tools are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure that nobody regulates them. That's the environment heading into the midterms. Voters are gonna see videos of candidates saying things they never said, hear audio of politicians making statements they never made, and read fabricated headlines designed to look real. And the disclosures where they even exist, they're gonna be tiny watermarks in corners that nobody reads. And so one of the big questions that voters are gonna have to ask themselves every single time they see a political ad between now and November is this real? Because seemingly, a lot of the people that are making these ads, they are counting on you not asking. When I say you, it's probably not even really you, it's the rest of America. I think the large majority of you have at least a healthy amount of skepticism, some more than even me. In the meantime, whether it's this final story or anything that stood out to you today, I'd love to know your thoughts, reactions, opinions, anything in those comments down below. Because that, my friends, it brings us to the end of your Monday Philip DeFranco Show Dive into the News. For breakdowns on any individual stories, I got you covered in those links in the description. And you have more to watch right now just a click away. Whether it's my In Good Faith podcast and interview with Scott Kawaz today, or if you didn't see it, we did a special extra bonus Philip DeFranco show on the state of the economy and why everyone feels differently about it right now. It's honestly been one of the most loved things we've released in recent memory, but a lot of people missed it because we uploaded it on Friday. Whatever you do, let me just say thank you for watching. I love yo faces, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.
My birth and past are tainted. I fight to reclaim them each day.
It will take more than light to solve our problems.
You're underestimating my light. That's okay.
Lately, the audience has been hitting me up because there's been things falling from the sky. Once again, I remember this happened a few years ago, but now it's happening a lot more and more and more, and we're seeing this. But in this video, we're gonna get into the possibilities of what this could possibly be, man. Just buckle up, don't skip a thing, or you will get lost in the sauce, man. Just know if you're going through a tough time, you're not in this life by yourself. We're going through this thing called life together. You know what I'm saying? But look, smash that like button. Let's get this video to like 20,000 likes, man. Share these videos with your friends and families if y'all rocking with the content. But look, man, we're on our way to 1 million, and I appreciate y'all, man. We building every day. Just pay attention to this one, man. This is interesting, man. The music is crazy though. I just think it's diabolical how like she's really like listening to R. Kelly, bro. Like, we gotta let some things go, man. We gotta let some shit go. That's one of them.
What I'm going to show you is just a single meteor, or what you think is a meteor, and this is usually how you see it go across the sky. Now, let me show you what this truly is that you're seeing. Now, what I'm showing you right here is leaked photos of some government agencies and so their agents in hazmat suits going out into this field collecting this big wiry-looking ball with a hole in the center of it. Now, what this basically is, this is kind of like a coil, like a heater coil. Coil wire harnesses heat, and that's kind of like what this does right here. It harnesses heat. Now, this little hole that you see in the center of it, I'm going to show you what that's for in a second. But like I said, this wire, wrapped wire, harnesses heat, kind of like this right here. Now, this is a car cigarette lighter with a wired coil inside it, and once you plug this in and your negative and your positive connect, it heats that coil up, and you see you get a red glare, fiery red glare, as you can see here. Okay, now this wire, that's what this wire does. It heats up, and that fireball that you see flying across the sky, well, it's eventually you got to land somewhere, and they've been found all over the place, Australia, Brazil, and everything. So, like I said, that wire ball, it's like the coil, it harnesses the heat. That's the big fireball that you're seeing go across the sky. Now, the hole that you see in the center of that, right here, as you can see in this photo here, now, that's whenever this thing is filled with, I'm not sure what they fill these things with, kind of just like fireworks. And this hole that you're seeing, that's where everything's released from, the gases, the smoke, just like you see right here in this smoke bomb. It looks identical, just about. And here's another one here. And like I said, there's all kinds of these things. You guys can look these up. I just put a few in here just to give you an example, give you an idea what these things look like. But anyways, that hole, like I said, releases the gases, chemicals, smoke, whatever is in this thing. That's where it all releases from. And that smoke that you see go across the sky when this thing is flying across the sky, or falling out of the sky, basically, where they're dropping it out of the airplane. But that hole is where you get this momentum, kind of like a bottle rocket, which all you guys have seen a bottle rocket. Well, same thing. It's got a little hole at the bottom of it, and that's where the flames shoot out at and gives it its momentum, and it shoots across the air. And then what happens when it gets up in the air? It pops, of course. Same thing you see here. It's nothing more than just a big fireworks show to deceive you. That's all it is. So the next time you see one of these flying across the sky, just remember, it's just a big firework. That's all it is. Just a big firework to keep you brainwashed. That's all it is.
But think about it. You gotta understand, like, we live in a closed environment. You know, remember, like, if you believe in the Bible, people, like, you know, separated the water from the water and created a firmament.
Your team's capture progress has passed the halfway point.
So, I mean, we got technology that keep people brainwashed, just like the green screens from NASA. When you can see the harnesses and you can see mice in space, and there's a bunch of other odd, weird things that's going on, man. Like, come on now, like, it's crazy. The stuff that they put out here and what we believe, but together we're raising the vibrations, man. They can't no longer lie to the masses. Even the people that don't want to believe it. I understand that you want to be comfortable in your beliefs and you want to think that you know everything, but you know, this is the possibilities of what it could be, and shit looking strong.
About everything else, but NASA didn't know about this. Yeah, okay. Look at that shit. Nah, you're gonna have people say it's nothing to worry about. Meteors hit the earth all the time. And you're right. Meteors do hit the earth all the time. But meteors that big, coming that fast, does not hit the earth like that all the time. Let me add, that meteor was moving at 45 45,000 miles an hour. And we're not going to act like 45,000 miles an hour is moving at a slow pace. Yeah, right. We ain't even make it to the middle of 2026 yet. And look at all the shit that's happening. I'm out.
So the moment they change their story, they're lying. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I seen an unidentified plane flying around Gatlinburg the other day. Military came, ran it off. Next thing I know, the skies was grayed out with, the lines and all. The official story coming down was a tourist got lost trying to find McGee Tyson Airport and had to be redirected and guided back to there. I don't believe that one bit. As of this morning, it's now a survey plane doing surveys for the top of the mountain here and in Granger and in Morristown and all kinds of different things. That's two different stories, not the same story that what I saw. Neither one of the stories that they are putting out matches what happened. I know they're trying to discredit my videos, but I'm telling you, I saw what I saw. I'm not the only one who saw that. That was a unmarked blue and white little tiny old looking prop plane circling around Gatlinburg for about 5 circles, and then the military ran it off. Next thing you know, there's planes going over, there's lines, all that good stuff. It's gray. Official story was it was a tourist. Now the official story was it's a survey. What's the real story now? Have an awesome day.
Today is National Alien Abduction Day. Who knew? And to celebrate, the New York Post has reported that New York jumps to the #3 spot for U.S. alien abductions. This
Not going to New York, huh?
comes just 2 days after the United States government registered aliens.gov as a domain. Can anyone say predictive programming? But it doesn't stop with New York. This article came with a full map of the United States detailing where you're most likely to be abducted. It's not exclusive to the United States. If you live in Canada, you should also watch out. Even though mainstream media is saying that Trump's approval rating is 100% with the war in Iran, Polymarket tells a different story. And anytime ratings are this low, cue a distraction. And we've seen this playbook a lot lately. After Charlie Kirk's assassination investigation was going nowhere, the United States captured Venezuela's President Maduro. And then when no one would stop talking about the Epstein files, war with Iran. So it only makes sense that the next distraction is going to be aliens, so if you live in New York, you better watch out. As always, let me know what you think about all of this down below.
Sounds like they're getting ready to hit everybody with that blue beam. They prepping for that thing, boy. They want their way out of these damn files. I feel because we on y'all ass, but we not gonna forget. We not gonna forget. We're gonna keep talking about it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just crazy, man. One distraction after another. And y'all gotta understand how blue beam works, like they can get you to feel the emotions of what's real in the sky, not just only showing you pictures of or giving you projections of things that's real. They can actually, by frequencies, put these emotions in you. So a lot of people will definitely fall for it, man. And we do have our own technology like UFOs and stuff like that. So they come pick y'all up. It's probably not gonna be the people that you was looking for.
A lot of people have asked on my Easter prediction video how I've come to this conclusion, and they think that I'm just making it up out of thin air. First of all, obviously a lot of people commented about the Chris Bledsoe prediction, which that's what it's primarily based on. But I was trying to connect some more dots in terms of what events are going to lead us to that point, right? Because he did say that the lady told him, and I read the book last year. I've got it somewhere around here. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, so forgive me if I don't get every detail exactly right, because I'm sure someone's going to jump in the comments and say, but it was actually, whatever, dude. When the Sphinx sets its gaze on the horizon, on a red star, a new knowledge will be given to humanity. That's the first piece of this puzzle. Now, this was something that he said in 2012. And so we're either looking at a decade-plus long CIA psyop, or we're looking at true prophecy. And I don't know, and maybe it's neither. Maybe we see nothing come of any of this, and it's all for nothing. But then we end up after Easter or sometime later this year, scratching our heads saying, okay, what was that all about? Because there was an enormous amount of time and energy invested into this whole story. Okay, so you remember when Space Force came out, and we all kind of laughed at it and thought it was sort of insane because Trump is crazy, right? It's not as crazy anymore. I think a lot of us have kind of come to the conclusion that, yeah, perhaps we're not alone. Perhaps there's space and there are other entities or civilizations in space, or maybe this is it, and we're all just being lied to, and we're under a dome on a flat plane, and that's that. Regardless, the Space Force does exist, and the most recent iteration came out recently to study non-human intelligence, and this is their logo. So regardless of if any of this comes true or not, there's definitely a story being created. There's breadcrumbs being laid here. And I am following the breadcrumbs. I'm not completely nuts. And there's a lot more pieces of the puzzle we could connect here. For example, the deactivated weapons, which is spoken about in Lou Elizondo's Imminent. I read that maybe a year and a half ago. But there are government documents that indicate that this has happened on numerous occasions. So my theory is based on all these little breadcrumbs, right? It's not just out of left field. I've committed quite a bit of time to considering this. I wouldn't say this if I thought it was completely insane. Like, I think there's a lot of people that tend to agree that there's a possibility of something like this happening. So you can go watch my last TikTok if you don't know what I'm talking about. But basically, there's something coming around Easter, according to someone else. I'm trying to extrapolate more details for that, for the rest of you, and we'll see what happens.
Y'all have got to see this. Why is an old 4chan post talking about a broken ceasefire leading to World War III, leading to an alien invasion? Why is it that these old 4chan posts always seem to manifest right in front of us? So let's read this and see how accurate it is. You can see it says 6/22/25. I put up on the screen. Israel breaks ceasefire and strikes Iran. It's kind of weird. Trump responds with B-2 bunker busters on nuclear sites. Weird. Iran hits all Gulf oil fields and U.S. bases, blocks Hormuz, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Is that not exactly what is happening? It happened last night. Oil prices skyrocket, blackouts in Africa and the third world. Of course, we have that happening in Cuba as well. U.S. sends 3 aircraft carriers. At least 2 sunk by Iran, Russia, and China using self-unalive tactics. This is insane. This is like the point that we're supposed to be at, coming here pretty soon. U.S. tries amphibious invasion, first fails with massive casualties. Second attempt succeeds. By the way, Bibi just came out and said that they are putting boots on the ground in Iran. Oil-filled seas, advance halts, U.S. civil war begins. Anti-war bloc takes D.C. with military support. U.S. splits into 2 and retreats from the Middle East. And by the way, it's supposed to happen all by 2027. We had like the 2026 doomsday map, And of course, we had that really weird site that people would use to get analytics, especially geopolitically and military-wise, which also showed some great reduction in population happening. So it's kind of weird how this all comes together. Turkey betrays NATO. That is seemingly how it's going to go. Joined Russia, Iran, China alliance. China invades Taiwan. Now, look, this is all bound to happen, obviously. Russia's going to take Europe, like the George Orwell map. We know China's been waiting to go in on Taiwan for years now, and they're surrounding it right as we speak. North Korea invades South Korea. Of course, Japan fails to stop it. The president was just meeting with Japan earlier today. Fast forward, a bunch of tactical nuke things happen. And then it says 3 weeks of nuclear events, and then a fake alien invasion begins. MJ-12 releases synthetic alien soldiers. By the way, these are all, the classified government documents that talk about all this stuff, Majestic 12 and Project Blue Book. PLFs hunt survivors, FEMA camps classify people as useful or undesirable. By 2027, 5 billion have been unalive. Fake aliens defeat the help of the real ones. I told you there'd be a good cop, bad cop with aliens, but they're all friggin' evil. One world government under MJ-12 and the UN, Dome of the Rock destroyed. Script complete. Insane stuff. Let me know what you think below.
All wars are planned. Bye.
Wait, no. Don't leave.
I don't surrender, but y'all actually didn't want to surrender. This is just a fucking waste of time. Like, what was those tank decisions against 2 fucking me?
Does that mean that all government activity is fake? And then I got another question. Who planned them? Then I got one more. What's the reason that they planned them? What is the impact?
This should limit any damage.
What's the real reason? Like, I appreciate videos like this because you're thinking, you're connecting the dots, you're putting everything together. You're getting all the way to the point where, guess what? Everybody is in on it. Remember when you used to say, oh, well, if that was true, then everybody would have to be in on it. She just named everybody. She just named everybody. She just named everybody. Yeah, I gotta start looking at this and seeing, hey, this government, country, society, all of this shit is fake. This whole reality is fake. It's fake. So stop stressing yourself out about trying to figure out what this and this and this and that, what that is, and what politician did this, and what president said this, and blah 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 blah. Stop doing all of that. You're wasting your time. What you need to look at is start at the end of this video that she just gave you, and say, okay, if everything is fake, what is real? And start going through the things that they told you were not real, and look at them as if they were. I bet you everything will change immediately.
For those with eyes that can see, how long do you think we have here in America before things drastically change overnight?
To the average person, I would say get your board in the water and prepare to paddle like all get out. The tsunami of a lifetime is coming, and nothing your elders have seen is going to prepare. There's no good advice to give that's specific. Let's put it this way. One of the things when people tell me about their moving from one city to another, I have a phrase that nobody likes, which is every place is over. Oh, I'm moving to Austin. Yeah, it's over. Miami, it's over. Nashville, over. All these places are over. And every occupation that is named is over. I'm going to be a dentist. Radiologist. Accountant. Teacher. These are all over. Whatever's coming, get flexible. Get good. Get good on a bunch of different stuff. Learn how to think across disciplines. I have no idea what's going to be left for us. But somebody's going to come out on top. And I hate to tell people that you should try to come out on top. I don't think it's healthy to have everyone trying to be world class. I think you should be able to just have a life. I have a golden retriever. I don't know that it's the greatest golden retriever in the world. Sometimes I think it is, but he does a lot of dumb stuff. But he's my golden retriever. I just don't think it. I think that this mania for optimization, like if you look at your own videos, you'll find some of the best performing videos are, this is how to succeed. This is how to get anyone you want. This is how to get out of a bad situation. People just want capacity. But for what? Okay, you've optimized your day. You've optimized your health. Your social media is optimized. Now what?
So again, how long do you think we have until things drastically change here in America? Would love your thoughts below.
Get here.
Invited.
This Operation Paperclip after World War II, SHIELD recruited German scientists with strategic value.
They thought I could help their cause. I also helped my own. After the war, SHIELD was founded, and I was recruited. The new Hydra grew, a beautiful parasite inside SHIELD. For 70 years, Hydra has been secretly feeding crisis, reaping war. And when history did not cooperate, history was changed.
That's impossible. SHIELD would have stopped you.
Accidents will happen. Hydra created a world so chaotic that humanity is finally ready to sacrifice its freedom to gain its security. Once the purification process is complete, Hydra's new world order will arise.
It was not what we thought it was.
It's been taken over by Hydra.
Alexander Pierce is their leader. The Strike and Insight crew are Hydra as well.
I don't know how many more, but I know they're in the building. They could be standing right next to you.
They almost have what they want. Absolute control.
They shot Nick Fury, and it won't end there. If you launch those helicarriers today, Hydra will be able to kill anyone that stands in their way. Unless we stop them. I know I'm asking a lot. But the price of freedom is high. It always has been. And it's a price I'm willing to pay. And if I'm the only one, then so be it.
Look, man. Hey, you already know the sentiment we've been taking over. It's the reason why the government does strange things for a little piece of change. You know what I'm saying? That's because they got something on all of them. They've been compromised. And you can see that with relation to the Epstein files. They eating babies and they've been compromised. Some of them are not themselves anymore. Just like the reference of this movie with everything, it lines up perfectly. Like, a lot of the government has been taken over, and they've been showing us this shit in predictive programming with like The Simpsons and everything else. There's more than the prediction. They already know. They just have to kind of tell your ass just a little bit.
The 6G now. I just finished 5G. I was a leader on 5G getting that done. And now they're up to 6.
Let's do it again.
What does that do? Give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin? See how perfect it is?
6G is coming in 2030. That's the public launch. But testing began years ago in controlled zones across Virginia, Osaka, and EU smart grids. And here's what they won't tell you. 6G doesn't connect your phone. It connects you. In 2023, DARPA and ATIS ran a closed pilot across federal buildings in Northern Virginia. The tech? 6G presence nodes, powered by terahertz bands that don't just transfer data, they mirror you. Each user's gait, tone, even heart rhythm became part of the signal loop. The system adjusted light, sound, even push notifications based on real-time biometric drift. It's called adaptive ambient sync, and it's not theory. In the Arlington test zone, over 200 participants unknowingly entered what the internal logs labeled a behavioral sync cluster. Result? 68% changed walking pace within 90 seconds. 52% began mirroring posture. Average voice pitch dropped 12 hertz across the zone without prompt or audio cue. This isn't cellular, it's presence modulation, backed by Samsung's 6G white paper, verified in Hexa-X testbeds, and buried in Appendix 9 of the Defense Communications Futures Report, blackbarred until last quarter. You were never the user. You were the interface. Want out? Disrupt the loop, delay touch input, break rhythm, avoid high-band hotspots during emotional peaks. Because with 6G, you're not browsing. You're being tuned. Tuesday accessed the relay logs. They weren't encrypted because they assumed no one would read drift code but them. Now you have.
I'm fucking tired of this fucking shit. I'm fucking tired of this fucking shit. I can't believe how fucking tired I am of this fucking shit.
I'm fucking tired of this fucking...
Let's decode this facial expression of Kash Patel that has been making the rounds on the internet. Now, I was actually going to start my day with decoding this expression, and I found it so discombobulating that I actually instead started to code the facial expression of Ted Bundy. So that says a lot. So the main piece of what we're seeing is this hard pullback of the upper eyelids, which is the full upper part of the facial expression of fear. The facial expression of fear is not usually held. So it's usually a very quick response, both in the eyes and the mouth. And then once that fear, that shock is gone, we let it go. So when that upper part of the facial expression of fear is held for a duration of time, so much so that either the expression keeps repeating itself or it's held almost so that it becomes the baseline, then something is really off. And there are a number of names for that gaze, for that facial expression. I call it the disassociated gaze because it's a disconnecting from our humanity or from our feelings, from our emotional state. In law enforcement, sometimes in the military or in the ER, they call it crazy eyes. And this is because it can be a precursor to violence. If you see somebody come into the ER or so you're chasing somebody on the street and they're walking around with this gaze.
I'm not chasing nobody with eyeballs popping from their head like that. Who the hell chasing them?
They might be on drugs. They might be responding to PTSD, and they might be emotionally very, very volatile. So there is a reason that it's sending that signal to our nervous system that something is really, really off. This facial expression may be a trauma response. Maybe that the person is walking around in constant terror. It may be that they're really overwhelmed, overstimulated, and disconnecting from all of their emotions. But in any case, it is a huge red flag. Now, I do want to make note of the fact that those of us who are neurodivergent, or those of us who have individuals, friends, family members, loved ones, colleagues that are on the spectrum of autism, we do know that this is sometimes a facial expression that people will make when they're very, very overwhelmed and overstimulated. So it is not necessarily a facial expression that is going to lead to violence, but it is telling us that their nervous system is completely overwhelmed. However, when you do see it in a stranger, or your nervous system is giving you other signals that this person may not be safe, I want you to pay close attention to it. My other rule has always been that when somebody's making this facial expression as part of their baseline, they're making it repetitively. If it's a friend or a loved one, try to get them some help. Try to have a conversation with them, see what you can do to be supportive. Maybe they need professional help. Do not leave somebody with this facial expression in charge of your children. I'm Annie Sundblad, and I teach facial expressions.
Well, he more than in charge of my damn children. That's definitely concerned. I know when I seen his facial expression, I was clearly concerned from the beginning. Let me know how y'all felt about this man's facial expression when you first seen him do that shit. I already knew that shit's just not normal. And if you can read the room, the people that are deeply connected, with frequencies and stuff, you can feel the vibes. That's why they say, Kendrick Lamar, please don't kill my vibe. You can feel it, bro. You can feel it. We just gotta tap back in and pay more attention to it, and we can avoid a lot of things. Like a nigga walk in, his eyeballs popping out his head like that. I'm telling y'all, no matter what, I'm leaving. I don't want to be here enough to be around that. You know, I can sense what's going on. Something ain't right. That clearly reads to me. Let me know if y'all feel the same about it in the comments down below. But why is he stressed out like that? I wonder why. Why is he concerned? I wonder why.
So nobody gonna talk about the fact that the government just secured alien.gov like that's normal. As y'all can see, it's right there, alien.gov, registered on March 17th. You gotta sit there and ask yourself, why now? Why would they do this now? It wouldn't be because they're gearing up for something to happen, right? It wouldn't be because the movie Disclosure Day is coming out, right? I'm letting y'all know right now, things are ramping up very quickly. Y'all pay attention. I know y'all been seeing over the last couple of days, asteroids been entering Earth. And I be sitting there like, ain't they supposed to know when this is coming? Like, they can detect it, right? But then I seen one today where they say it was an asteroid, but instead of it going down, the jump start going up, down, around. And I'm sitting there like, what the fuck could that be? Then I start thinking again, how many satellites do Elon got in space? What's the fastest way to make a one world government? Thoughts down below in the comments.
Our email, V told me that this happened a couple of years ago. They were at a party in their hometown. All their friends were there, people that they knew loosely, people that they didn't really know. And at the party was this one guy who they said that we can just call Mike. Mike was pretty well known locally as the guy who almost made it. They said that Mike was a super talented musician. He really only played the local bar scene, which wasn't much because their town was small. But at one point, Mike almost had it all. The record deal, the fame, the money. But he just came back home. As this party goes on, it's getting later and later. V said that they are some of the last people there. It's V, two of her friends, Mike, and the host. V said, I'm the designated driver. At this point, it's 2 a.m. I'm ready to go home. He could tell by the way that Mike was talking that he was highly inebriated. He did not need to be behind the wheel, so V offered to take him home, even though it was going to be 30 minutes out of the way. As long as that kept someone safe, V was fine with it. Mike agrees, and they all pile into the car. Mike sits in the front seat. V's two friends sit in the back seat. V is driving. As V turns the car on and they start to pull out, the radio comes on, and Mike leans over and asks, hey, can you turn that off? V said they don't really think about it at all, and they're like, sure, no problem. Turns off the radio. Mike says, I could have been on the radio. And he just kind of laughs. He doesn't really seem like he regrets it or he's upset about it. He's just making a statement. I could have done this. He is just casually driving along at this point, just kind of looks at Mike and says, well, you know what? Maybe that lifestyle just wasn't for you. Maybe you're just, happy where you are. He said that Mike got this 50-yard stare looking out the windshield and just says, you have no idea. He's just driving along and says to Mike, oh, just a little too much fun for you, Mike, a little too much partying going on. And Mike got this 50-yard stare on his face and he said, no, what they do isn't fun, it's twisted. He says they glance in the rearview mirror to make sure that their friends are catching this, and they are. They make eye contact and their friends are like, yeah, we're picking up on this. One of the friends from the back seat says, oh, like what? Because at this point they were thinking, okay, Mike is about to tell us about some of the craziest parties, rugs that we don't even know about. But that's not the direction that Mike takes. Mike just asks everybody in the car, have you ever seen The Mage? Everyone in the car says, yes, we've seen The Mage. And Mike says, but have you really seen them age? Because if you look at them, have you ever noticed that they get this work done as they age and get older? Do you really think with all the money they have that they can't afford a good plastic surgeon? He said those people that you see that have had work done, those are not them. Those are the stand-ins. They are paid to age, to have their faces botched and live a lifestyle with a lot of money, but that's not them.